And when he comes in uniform, decorated war veteran, attained the rank of, at that point, he colonel,
I think
at the
so.
time. Yep. That the Continental Congress then decided, hey, you know what? That yeah, war's on the forefront. In fact, war's already happening. We need a leader, and you're the man.
Well, when they were going through this, it's kind of funny because, they're wondering who's going to be the guy. And all of a sudden, George Washington, who originally showed up, and he's like, I'm just going to show up in my uniform.
Uniform.
Didn't say anything. He didn't lobby for himself. He just kind of showed up in his military uniform, like as if, really, what are you trying to say? Anyway, but there was more than one person who was actually vying for the job.
Mm-hmm.
And when it came time for a vote, the delegates to the Continental Congress really, and in the writings that we have of contemporaneous of the time, and the delegates' recollections thereafter, they wanted someone who would be loyal to the Congress, loyal
Right.
to the cause, not self-indulged and vain and all, with the narcissism of a Napoleon. They didn't want an Oliver Cromwell that they remembered from their stories from England, who
Right.
came over, was supposedly the savior and said, oh, well, guess what? I'm not a savior anymore. I'm making myself king and go screw yourself. They didn't want anyone like that. They wanted someone who was going to abide by the rule of law, who's going to go by the directives of the Continental Congress, who believed in the cause of the Congress. And the other persons who were vying for the job as being the chief commander of the Continental Army, they were much more involved in because of their own personal thoughts and gains and narcissism, etc. And John Adams, who
Right.
really didn't have a strong tie to George Washington at that time,
At
he's the
all.
one who put Washington's name forward, said, that's the guy.
Right. Right. And it's one of those things where he had already established a reputation, and that a reputation of being a solid person, a solid legislator from the House of Burgess, a solid businessman, and just he lived by that code that he developed when he was in his younger years.
He
That is
wasn't a
something. I mean,
braggart, right?
yeah, it wasn't just show. It's actually something that he accepted and that he lived by, which you didn't have. I mean, you don't have very often. He lived by this code, and he stayed with it, and that's what people saw that this is the guy that we want to lead our armies, because there was always a concern, and that's why you had so many militias at the time, because people didn't want a standing army, because they feared a standing army, because they've seen what standing armies and leaders of standing armies like Cromwell could do.
Right.
And so that's why they formed these militias, but the militias were ineffective without a central formative leader. And that's when they decided, you know what, we have to do it, and he's the man.